Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Marcantonio Global is a private organization that plays a pivotal role in scouting, assessing, identifying, training, assisting, and delivering potentially disruptive technologies, particularly in the defense sector. They're actively involved in highly dynamic defense tech innovation forums and work closely with the U.S. Department of Defense. With a focus on investment strategies, policy navigation, and market analysis for the rapidly evolving commercial space industry, their mission is to bridge the gap between cutting-edge technology and critical defense needs. That mission is achieved through accelerating innovation in the defense sector by fostering collaboration between innovative technology companies and defense organizations. My guest is Nino Marcantonio, the founder of Marcantonio Global. Nino, it's a pleasure to welcome you back to the podcast.
Hello, sir. Thanks for having me back. It's an absolute pleasure to be talking about Marcantonio Global.
We haven't talked for a couple of years, at least not officially for a podcast. So tell me what's changed for Marcantonio Global in the past couple of years. Have there been any major industry shifts that have impacted your strategy?
Marcantonio Global has just been focusing on accelerating, the typical disruptive tech into the defense sector, using our highly dynamic future tech forums. The only difference is that we've gotten bigger, we've gotten sharper, we've got more collaborative. We've got more integrators. We've expanded into the OSD component, and we have looking really closely at how we can continue to have collaborations between companies that work with us that are even working with other programs, and that's really the key in prioritizing speed over bureaucracy to deliver solutions to the warfighters. We're looking at if you're looking at some of the programs that trying to support and enhance the DARPA type missions, looking at hypersonics advancements, looking at space, working with the Space Development Agency, looking at Space Force, really focusing on a lot of AI, and accelerating those innovations inside the technologies themselves that are being developed.
So talk to me about the investment landscape. How has that evolved for space commerce in particular since our last discussion?
Absolutely surged a whole lot. The space economy is booming. We need to think about capital and national security investments made in space are really going to be important. Thinking about the dual use technology and how that has been applied to defense. You're looking at a lot of investments, the Andurils of the world, the Palantirs, the Shield AIs, SpaceX. For now, we just had the three the big boys up in space get a big contract for in-space servicing. And you're looking at Boeing, you're looking at the F-47 program. I mean, we're talking about incredible investments. We're going towards building in space, but we also have to think about some of the challenges that are also in space, given the geopolitical landscape.
You talk about the big guys, the big boys that are up there playing, and everyone knows who those companies are. But what about the smaller space companies and companies that are either up and coming or who just have gotten established that are trying to get in with government contracts and playing in that arena?
Yeah, well, like I said, if you're looking at the importance of the small business, right now we're trying to break down the barriers, and especially with this administration. Not that it wasn't being done before, but it's an exclamation mark of using the other transaction authority, using the small business, using the companies that are getting an SBIR. And what's really critical is leveraging the public-private partnership to accelerate that innovation, that teaming opportunities, really by relying with having the small, agile, many strategy. Right, you're looking at a lot of the small things that are coming up or from small innovations, and we really need to figure out a way, and we're doing a very good job by building these adaptive acquisition frameworks that I think the Pentagon is really looking to deploy, not only as a national defense strategy, but also looking at working with partners, co-production, co-development, and with our close U.S. ally and nations. The big thing about this administration, as has been kind of a working point, when you talk about America first, you're talking about bringing innovation and manufacturing back at home, but having allies pay for a little bit more of the things that, over the years maybe have come, have been, we've had the China shock 20 years ago. So we're trying to wheel back on some of those critical areas to come and manufacture things at home.
So then what role do you see the government's playing in commercial space, particularly in the next few years in light of the realignment that the Trump administration is doing in the government?
Yeah, I think, again, touching back on what we're really focusing on, these adaptive acquisition frameworks, really focusing on the middle tier acquisition, looking streamline processes. When we talk about bringing down the bureaucracy, shifting over things to not really what hasn't worked, but what really we need to focus on shifting priorities to in the RTD&E acquisition and sustainment part of the house. That's where I think the private sector initiatives, you're looking at a lot of different things, and in you're looking at the rapid capability offices, the National Defense Authorization Acts and funding, the MSIP program, even look at how wonderful the CHIP Act has been, shifting on the policy, for example, on the energy and the clean energy stuff. That plays into a role where the U.S. I think is going to be in the near future looking at trying to go towards a hybrid where you're not just taking out, for example, petroleum-based the technologies, but start looking where you're also looking at what the U.S. can do with its production of oil to strengthen our national defense strategy. In space you have collaborative efforts like the Artemis Accords, frameworks where companies are supporting lunar explanations. You're looking at Mars. So I'm working on a lot of different small stealthy companies that are doing incredible things, looking to go ahead and expand to space. We're working with a lot of UK AUKUS. Today I met with the AUKUS Forum, strengthening Australia, UK, Japan, all the areas in the background. I think there's going to be a big shift that way. I also really wanted to kind of touch base a little bit on the post-quantum cryptography standards, right? We're looking at really thinking about what's coming, with these exponential technologies that are being developed. Those are things that I think are going to be very, very important as we lay out blueprints for what is the future of the internet look like.
It occurs to me that as we're talking, I believe it's today that Jared Isaacson is having a confirmation hearing to be the administrator of NASA. What kind of shift is that going, should he be confirmed, and I don't see any reason that he wouldn't be, what kind of shift is that going to bring to put an entrepreneur and somebody who has been essentially a space tourist in charge of the nation's space agency?
Really, I think whenever somebody is getting picked with this administration, just another one. When you're looking at the experience of tech and in space, where now you're looking at really strengthening those public-private partnerships, working with allies with that mindset of what is it really to play fair, right? To make sure that we do things in space collaboratively, but that we keep an advantages as America First strategy.
What are some of the biggest risks that are facing space commerce these days?
Geopolitical instability, as we know. China and Russia weaponizing space is a big deal. Supply chain issues, we've seen those. We've seen that during COVID, the urgent pandemic response. How that cyber threats. This orbital debris poses major risks with losing the tech edge. Just a huge concern. In 2021, Russia with anti-satellite tests. China's fractional orbital bombardment system. These things are coming online. The cyber attack on Viasat, and these are all the telltale signs. That we need to look at always with a fine tooth in space, because it's really, space is really hard, right? You control space, you control not only the world, you can control a lot. So we're seeing a lot of shifting into the multi-domain, awareness, starting off with space. I think if we look top down, all the way down to the seafloor, that's going to be an important key role. In fact, we have a lot of We have a lot of initiatives right now, and a lot of working groups that we're looking, towards, space nuclear propulsions, and looking at when fusion is coming online. But really, you got to deal with that traffic up there, right? That traffic, and you're going to start manufacturing, and just a whole another economy up there across the LEOs and across all of the layers to the moon, and that's just the moon, right? As we go ahead and expand on these technologies, they're so advanced, we might be able to start moving across space and time much faster, which is really going to make things really interesting in the next 5 to 10 years.
I talked last week on the podcast with Dr. Goswami about, and her specialty is China, Russia, and India and their space programs and how they interact. What kind of competition do you see? Because theirs are so much command-oriented and government-oriented, where ours appear to be pulling back and becoming more tied in with commercial companies to run the space program. How are we positioned well to compete in that arena, given those dynamics?
Oh, absolutely. The United States is a world leader in space. As much as we might think that the competition is talking about an even playing field. Yes, we have, I don't know if even over the last 20 years, okay, China's come onto the scene. Russia's always really been there in space. Mm-hmm. We are the biggest economy in the world, right? I mean, a lot of people depend on us globally. The competition, I think, is going to be somewhere where we have to calculate well how we play in space with each other. I think that there's a whole world out there where we've gotten so powerful with the things that we can do with technology, with the weapons, that there has to be a lot of diplomacy that goes into also the art of war, right? So you want to play the art of war. Like I work with the Space Center, the Strategic Space Center that has been working on these problems since the 1950s. Well, things have changed. You have to be very careful how we deal, just as if we were dealing here on a really sensitive area. Like, for example, right now, you're looking at all the challenges in Israel, right? With Palestine, all that history. Well, space is a little bit of a new exploration area. There's a lot of opportunities for everybody. I don't think we have to stay on top of our partners. We have to make sure that everybody plays fair. We have to make sure that we keep accelerating our technologies in the public-private partnerships. Okay. So as far as the competition is concerned, game on. It is a highly competitive environment, but we are in a 21st century in fourth industrial revolution, and we will come out on top.
Given that parameter, do you feel like there are any particular sectors in space commerce that you think maybe are being overhyped or maybe undervalued?
Maybe there's a little bit of the space tourism piece of the thing is a little bit overhyped, right? Because it's kind of more for the rich. I think we need to be more focused on orbital manufacturing and autonomous satellites networks. Those are the more undervalued ones. Even though maybe undervalued is kind of maybe a strong word. I would say maybe underknown. That is. For especially for defense and commerce, it's so critical, right? So I want to say more like to the public, right? But those are the things that I think are going to be important in defense. You have Blue Origins, New Shepard. It's a little bit of a hype, but it's fine because if you have to give people the opportunity to go, but it's tourism up in space is not yet a reality, right?
Right.
But I think we can get there. So, you're looking at a lot. You got Virgin Galactic, they're doing great things, made in space Arcanauts, swarm technologies and satellite networks. Those are the things that I think are going to be critical. AI and quantum mixing together is going to be something that we watch very, very closely, because with the acceleration, communication and abilities are going to be important. Propulsion is going to play a big role. And a couple of years ago, we brought in, Marcantonio Global Alliance member, is doing some phenomenal things, to deal with some problems up there. But these things are coming very fast, and we don't want to be surprised. Especially, we always have to think, the worst. We want to think about space as a place where it's so big that we should not be fighting, but we also don't want to lose our dominance in it.
So you do a lot of work in the defense sector, and I wanted to ask you how the intersection of the defense sector and the commercial space industry is changing.
Well, I think that the lines between commercial space and defense sector is blurring. With private innovators and innovations, if you're looking at rapid launch surveillance is being deployed to protect troops and national interests, right? That's kind of a big thing. Some actors might use that as as something nefarious. Some actors might use it as, crowd control or, the societal control. Again, I think what we're seeing with SpaceX is absolutely something that with real innovation comes in, with these launches that they're doing, what they're recatching, the payload is absolutely amazing, right? And you have all sorts of other players, Hawkeye 360 with the RF surveillance satellites, all three areas, responsive space solutions, you got Starlink helping Ukraine. That was an incredible thing, to be able to do that and help out a nation that it was in need. And it changed the character of war, right? And when you're able to use that kind of capability, it can change the war outcomes, which is really incredible. Again, you're also looking at the space targeting with the AIs and directed energies capabilities, right? We got a couple of programs that are these space tech programs that really have some incredible technologies going up there that can be game changers for so many different reasons. Again, just looking at how exponential things are happening. I can't be more excited and thrilled, and also a little bit not scared, but I see some things that are moving so fast with some of these systems. These capabilities are just mind-boggling, and we really need to be conscious and proactive of upskilling the workforce and people through these incredible podcasts. I know one. It's by my friends at Ex Terra. It's so wonderful to spread it out to the world and community, because these conversations need to be heard by every human.
And thank you for the plug. We appreciate that. My guest on this edition of the Ex Terra Podcast is Nino the Typhoon Marcantonio, founder of Marcantonio Global on the Ex Terra Podcast. Take a moment right now to click subscribe to be sure you don't miss any of the podcasts, or if you're watching on YouTube, any of the videos from Ex Terra, the Journal of Space Commerce. And please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Whether you're a space professional or an enthusiast, paid subscribers have first access to premium articles and podcasts focused on the new space economy. Just visit xterrajsc.com and help keep the Journal of Space Commerce independent as we chronicle, cajole, and, when necessary, critique the commercial space industry. You touched on this a little bit before, Nino, but I want to go back and get your thoughts on how geopolitical tensions and national security concerns are affecting space commerce investments.
That is listening to the news and looking at the terrorists, bringing money back to the United States where it hasn't been fair. You're looking at space. How is it going to affect it? I think it's just going to put a little bit of pause to it more than anything else. Just like anything else, it's a little bit of a reset. I think in the next couple of years, yes, we do have risk of things escalating, but at the same time, I think giving the development of such powerful capabilities across the board and things that have already been developed, we need to learn from our past. We need to really see that we need to work out these geopolitical at this stage and age, right? When you're looking at China, Russia, U.S., and even some of the India, these countries they're extremely powerful, right? So yes, you do want to play a different type of warfare, like in the cognitive, you want to play in the the asymmetric, but we really have to think that we've come so far within humanity that I think we're at an inflection point where our technologies can rather cause absolute catastrophe, or can actually cause the most wonderful era for human civilization, because we can really become a spacefaring nation, spacefaring world, where we can start thinking about how to terraform Mars. You can use the moon as a base, and we can start thinking interstellarly in the next 50 years. I think really the next 5 years are so exciting because I've seen these disruptive technologies right now. Some of them come to bear and are starting to really make impact. And you see it with artificial intelligence, with the application of, you see open AI, how these LLMs are changing the way that people are using AI. But it's so much more than that because it's just one aspect of AI, right? There's so many different aspects to what we're doing. And then once you start coupling these technologies with quantum, and then you start, developing new type of materials, and you start, developing new types of energy sources, that the world is going to change so fast, and that exponential growth is what we're here to do, to make sure that we understand what is coming. We can actually simulate this in many different scenarios, and honestly, in any common sense of any leadership in the world, starting with the U.S., they, peace through strength. We don't need to fight this. Let's make a deal. I mean, guys, seriously, this is a wonderful opportunity. But also, if you run into some characters around the world, especially some of your rivals, that might not be a straightforward discussion. So I think we're in some interesting times, but I want to be extremely positive that especially as this administration comes in, we are going to try to establish this, peace through strength, by thinking about America first, but also, always never really forgetting about our allies, more, playing fair, again, this fairness can also become a political stunt of it. I mean, if you look at some of the realities of things, I think we still need to be strengthening our allies and partners as much as we can, work together the best we can, and really try to do the right thing for every single opportunity to strengthen another country, or especially looking at Africa, how it's developing, and looking at South America, looking at some of the areas in Asia, where China has come on, with this Belt and Road Initiative, these 20 years, but not really playing fair with us over the years. We need to gain a little bit of ground back. And it doesn't have to be with war, right? It doesn't have to be with arms. It has to be with economic warfare more than anything else. So flex the muscle.
Speak softly and carry a big stick.
That is the plan with President Trump, and I like the way it's going, simply because, again, I'm an international guy, right? I do understand that we sometimes, even our best friends, we have to be tough with our, with Europe. We have to be tough in that we can't always carry the most of the risk on things, and this is protecting. We've seen this in World War II, right? I mean, we've seen this a lot. It's time for countries to step up and carry the load. Because there's in America, we've fallen off a little bit. The industrial capacities, the jobs. If you go inland, there's thousands of businesses that need to be resurrected. And I really do believe that we're coming back. We're coming back strong with bringing jobs back to the United States of America. That's what we need to think about.
So then, how does Marcantonio Global navigate the market risks for your clients, and what's the greatest value add you offer to the people who come to you for help?
Well, so just being in the Pentagon for the last 10 years, and the government prior 10 years, 20 years of experience, understanding the mechanisms, how things work, understanding the strategy of approach, understanding what the DoD needs as a need, right? Because we're strategic public-private partnerships, so we're also really looking at technologies that are going to help us create a future need. So really lately, in the last couple of years, and especially this last year, we're really thinking about emerging operational needs. Mm-hmm. So we change the paradigm of doing a forum or supporting a company that can really do things, and it's not about that one technology per se, that group. It's about that capability that we need to think about to see how things are developing. And that's where we really we excel, because we're able to not only figure out that the Pentagon needs this in a couple of years, it might need it 6 months, it might need it yesterday. So what Marcantonio Global really excels is that understanding of what the Pentagon is trying to build as a future requirement. Yes, we do have requirements that is, business as usual, fit into a requirement, go after it. Because technologies are moving so fast, we need to be more adaptive. So we're working with these adaptive acquisition frameworks, policy, innovation, R&E, acquisition sustainment. How do you sustain it? Then you got all the accelerators, then you got all the TAs. Well, you have to learn the culture to innovate. You have to learn who's inside that. For example, DARPA, the DSO office has a certain way of doing business. This other transaction authority that's run by ATI does business this way. These other guys here that do it this way. The Air Force has this culture. Then you have to start thinking about what kind of advisors you're going to need to really make an impact. It's just like playing a soccer game, right? And you're like a new star. So that star needs to be identified and scouted, but then they need to learn how to enter into a mechanism, which is the game. To win a game is very hard. To win the World Cup is a whole other beast. So, you might do a little win, with your SBIR, great. There's a lot of people doing that. That's one thing. Then how do you go ahead and start partnering up with technologies? Well, we do that really well. Well, which innovation management platform are you using? Well, which advisor do you need to come in, to a more important tier of acquisition? And then, of course, you're looking at the strategic. How can we go ahead and be leapfrog China and Russia in 5 years? Those are all things that we do extremely well, and we've been blessed. But again, we're only as good as the next great innovation. We're only good as our next partner. We like to collaborate with everyone. We don't discriminate. I do prefer Italian Americans because I'm Italian, but it's okay. I do work with everyone. If you're Italian, I got a little soft spot for you. If you're Spanish because of my wife, or you're Dominican, it doesn't matter. I'm just kidding. But those are the things that we have to be able to work with everyone. I mean, I have friends from all over the world. I grew up international, American University, Maryland. DC, being in DC, you just live with other people. I have, from all walks of life, all different colors of people. I really, really love that. And that's kind of the other thing about Marcantonio Global that is really important is really, you got to give, right? You got to do, it's not always about, am I going to become your advisor? No, it's not always about that. Maybe you go ahead and, you get people inside the game that really need it. And then that comes back around. So it's a little bit of the program is not just the companies that I engage and I work with 6 months. It's looking at what OSD, DARPA, Miter-like company, Booz Allen, and all the innovations that are coming out of these incredible RTD&E shops. Those are companies that are fair game because I really care about our national strategy. So it can't just be something that we are pushing through the forum. That has to be the absolute capability that the Pentagon is going to buy. We don't have acquisition authority, and we don't want it. We want to be able to bring different comparative analyses around these incredible technologies to really make America great again. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's funny. That kind of came. No, it's really to make the Department of Defense, the stay ahead of our competitors. And there's a lot of innovation coming. How can we make sure that it gets developed, how it gets funded and manufactured? So those are the things over the last 2 years. Going back to your question, is just really extremely important. How do we go ahead and help them sustain, produce, sustain, co-develop, partner? Those are really, really hard things to do, and we're starting to figure it out.
You mentioned the pace at which technology is advancing, and we all know that becomes an exponential thing. It seems like every year the pace of technology development increases by 10 years. So how do you balance the timelines on developing technology with, as you said, if the Pentagon needs something yesterday and yet the technology that requires might have a 10-year development timeline? How do you balance those things with your clients and make it so that they can be successful with these agencies?
So we tell the companies, again, the acceleration is really where I come back to, is partnering them up with people that are doing great things. Get the big boys around the table to see real innovation, right? So you basically got to piggyback. You got to help people piggyback on. When you get thrown into a fight, you always want somebody to be next to you, right? It's essential that in innovation, you might have the best next spear, but you got to see who's launching it, right? So it's about that strategic partnerships. Just like I'm a strategic partner to the Pentagon that expects me to do certain things in certain forums. I expect the Centurions, right? These Centurions, oh wow! Centurions just a bunch of great innovators, great people that come together, help each other out, right? You call it a program. Then you start accelerating each other across, scout, assess, identify, integrate? Once you get so getting some funding, how are you gonna go to your next phase? How are you gonna go ahead and partner? Those are all, how are you gonna integrate? How are you gonna get your, the testing done for that capability? All of those things are things that we tell everyone to say, this is how it needs to be done. This is why this is so important for national security for you guys to work together. And really, it's just about, the shifting the acquisition to the left. Shifting acquisition to the left for the DoD is burning down bridges of how to get to opportunities, right? And those opportunities can be as easy as one partner that is doing something phenomenal is into opportunity to grab you on and take you onto the team. That is really kind of the secret of where we tell our companies and clients to go towards.
Just a couple of things more, Nino, and they're really speculative questions. But if you could change one thing about the current space industry, what would that be?
Space industry? It would probably be to, make it easier for have one company to start democratizing space. Meaning, how can we go ahead and go there? Just drop down those prices. It's getting to space is hard. So
right.
I would wish that SpaceX would make it very easy for everyone to go up there on their space and come back down, right? Just how can you go up to space for like an hour and go where it's like $1,000? It's just like a flight. That's really the one thing I would like to see change, the access to space for a human perspective for us. Mm-hmm. I think we're gonna get there anyways, but and then on the defense side, really more collaboration and more dialogue with our international partners and competitors. Just really work together more. Be very collaborative.
That our trip to space would be what some of our viewers and listeners of a certain age might call the ultimate e-ticket ride. But that'd be a lot of fun. I'd go in a heartbeat. Just one thing more, Nino, what trends do you think will define the next 5 years in space commerce?
The next 5 trends, let's see. You're looking at
and you don't have 5 trends. Just what trends do you think are going to really emerge as being really influential over the course of the next 5 years?
I think you gotta follow what SpaceX is doing, Blue Origin. You're looking at space, debris mitigation. Those are the things. All the satellite components that are being built, and these networks that are talking. And really looking at what's going on, on the moon. So big focus on the moon, big focus on how we're going to start go ahead and colonizing Mars. The big trend is going to be getting to Mars. And then the next 5 years, you're going to see how we're going to get to Mars, and how we're going to get there with the technologies that we're advancing, using the moon as a base, and then start looking further ahead. But I think in the next 5 years, those big trends, you're going to see how the SpaceX's, the world's, the Blue Origins, are going to go ahead and get us there. But always looking at also the big trends of, how the countries are going to start colonizing, these planets, right? So really exciting times that we're coming along, and we're going to see a lot of things in the moon coming up in the next couple of years, and then by 2030 and a little later, we're going to start seeing some big moves in towards Mars, and looking at terraforming Mars, and looking at putting some colonies down there. And it's going to go really fast based on the technology that I'm seeing, especially in the moon side. That we're gonna get there fast, and we're gonna be able to do things that a lot of people don't think is going to be sci-fi. It's going to turn into reality, because I'm starting to see that happen now. And it's really, really exciting times now.
I won't put you, well, I might put you a little bit on the spot, but will it be NASA or will it be SpaceX that puts people on the moon, or a combination thereof?
No. I think it's very much both. They both have the plans to do it. It's also, thinking China, India, but yeah, NASA and already have the programs, laid out. We have now it's about which side of the moon you're going to be on. And again, just because we don't know about it, but just know that our competitors and our peer rivals are making big plans, and we might be surprised with some news, coming out. Be ready for anything in the next couple of years. I think by 2030 we're gonna have a much different landscape up there in space. Not so much that you're gonna be, it's not gonna be just the U.S. and Russia. You have a big player called China. You got India coming up, and then you also have all the other great countries in Europe. That you got the European Space Agency that's doing some phenomenal things. I think everybody's gonna come online in other countries where the technologies are going to dictate everything that other countries do as well. So, yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. But if I had to put my head again, NASA and SpaceX, with some Chinese companies, you're looking at that's what the moon landscape is looking like.
So what you're saying is it's time to kick the tires and light the fires, as I said in the aviation business.
I think it's time to be very excited about exponential growth in space. Really seeing things be manufactured in space. You're looking at different types of communications. The quantum. You're looking at the advanced propulsion systems being developed. It's really exciting. I honestly, if I had to tell you where we're going to be in 10 years, I would say we're going to get to Alpha Centauri. But let's go ahead and land on the moon and get to Mars, and then work our way differences. If we can figure out not to kill each other, stupid wars and unnecessary battles, like we're seeing in Ukraine. It's just we got to start putting the human spirit and humanity ahead of everything, because really the technologies that we have are just extremely powerful. I mean, I'm a little bit scared of some things that are being developed. It's like, here's the thing about the technology. It's like, well, you develop it. But here's the problem. There's always going to be a bad guy doing something bad with it. So it's just a countermeasure. You kind of have to. It's like opening up the Pandora's box. Like when the nuclear bomb was created, right? It was who was going to get there. And then, we used it to win the war. But the technologies that are coming up now, they have to be taken. We have to learn from what took place with Manhattan Project, and we're in this predicament. So we have to be extremely great stewards of humanity by, putting the right people in the right places to make the right decisions with these disruptive technologies.
We will leave it on that hopeful note, Nino. Thank you very much. It's always a fascinating conversation.
Thank you very much for having me, and God bless you.
Nino Marcantonio is the founder of Marcantonio Global. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Ex Terra Podcast. You can subscribe to the audio version of the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and many other popular podcasting platforms. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any of our podcasts or any of our other videos. You can get daily updates on space commerce by subscribing to the Journal of Space Commerce on Substack at www.xterrajsc.com. And please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Whether you're a space professional or an enthusiast, paid subscribers have first access to premium articles and podcasts focused on the new space economy. Just visit xterrajsc.com and help keep the Journal of Space Commerce independent as we chronicle, cajole, and, when necessary, critique the commercial space industry. One thing more, be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn and follow us on X at XterraJSC. I'm Tom Patton. Thanks for joining us.
I wanna go faster, faster. Hands in the air, we're gonna crash. Searching for the answers, like Galileo. The proof is looking glass. Thirst for reason. A dreamer's eyes we gaze into, a sense of purpose, know my view. Like finding one